Hemming a Circle Skirt Using a Double-Rolled Hem by Share Our World.
Hi, this is Cherise from Share Our World, and today we are going to talk about how to hem a circle, such as a circle skirt or a Christmas tree skirt. First, we need to talk about the math. We're not going to do the math, we're just going to talk about the math. So I have a circle here that has a pink outside diameter and the outside circumference. That outside circumference is 14.5 inches for a 4.5 inch circle. Now, if I want to hem this circle just a double rolled 1/4 inch, that will give me a 4-inch circle, but the outside, like this black one, the outside circumference of that 4-inch circle is only 12 inches. So when I hem a circle, I have to figure out how to get that 14 inches to evenly distribute into that 12 inches or 12.5 inches. And the method I'm going to show you is a really simple method of doing that. So we are going to start with this 20-inch diameter circle, and as you can see, it's a full circle. This method is going to help you hem your circle exceptionally neatly. The first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to have a 1/4 inch presser foot on your sewing machine. And I want you to set your sewing machine stitch length as big as it will go, which in my particular case is only 5.0. A lot of sewing machines will go up to 7.0. 5.0 is adequate, 4.0 is adequate. Essentially, we're just going to run a gather stitch. There's my 5.0. So I'm going to run a gather stitch, and I'm going to run it along the edge of my presser foot. So I'm going to have a 1/4 inch gather stitch. I gather stitch a 1/4 inch in from the edge of the circle. And keeping in mind, this is a really long stitch because we're doing a gather stitch. And we're just going to run that all the way along the circle. And as you can see, I've got that on here in black thread. And a 20-inch circle has 60 inches of circumference. So I am essentially sewing roughly a 62-ish inch stitch, line of stitching. And then I've come back around to the front. Going to pull it out big and cut it off. And as you can see, that was a pretty fast gather stitch. It's because gather stitch is fast to run. And as you can see, I've put a gather stitch all the way around the outside of this circle. Now I'm going to put my stitch back down to 3. The reason why I don't use a 2.5 or 2 is I really just don't like taking them out. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my clips, and I need a few more than that, so I'll get them out of my box. I'll get my box here of clips. Here's my little basket of clips. And what I am going to do is I am going to double roll, and as you can see, that gather stitch, here I'm going to bring it up closely, I'm going to double roll, and that gather stitch is going to be right along the edge of my double roll, just like that. And then I'm just going to clip it there. Clip. And then I'm going to come over and double roll a little bit farther over. And as you can see, and I'm double rolling very carefully so that it's nice and perpendicular with the edge. So I am at each spot that I've double rolled is nice and tidy with the edge. But but when you do this, you'll find that there's a lot of sloppiness in the center there. That sloppiness is all of that extra fabric, all of those extra inches that I need to get in there. And you see it's not even laying nice. As you can see, it's not laying nice. So I am going to take and I'm going to pull up this gather stitch just a teensy bit. Just gather that a little teensy bit. And I didn't have to gather it a lot. I'm just going to gather it a little bit. And I'm going to gather it enough so that one section lays down exactly the way it's supposed to lay down. So now I have a little section of stitches that I've gathered. So now it's laying down just exactly like I would like it to look. And I just do that all the way around. If you can get that little section to lay down like you want it to look by pulling up your gather stitch, and gathering just that little spot all the way around your circle skirt. And I'm just using clips. You can use pins. I prefer clips. You're going to, when you run your actual hem, after you've done this whole section, when you run your actual hem on your sewing machine, it will just sew perfectly. You won't have any weirdness going on. You won't have any of those odd tucks. Because a lot of times when you run a circular hem, you get these odd tucks. And this takes a few minutes. It doesn't take a huge amount of time, but if you have a circle skirt that has a 600-inch hem, it's going to take you half an hour to do this, but it is totally worth it. But like a little one like this, it'll only take me 10 minutes to gather it right. So I'm doing the double roll, clipping it with my clip, and then I'm pulling up my gather stitch just a teensy bit. And I'm not actually pulling my gather stitch a lot, just enough to essentially ease in the way lots of extra fabric that I have between those two clips, because there is quite a bit of extra fabric between those two clips. And sometimes I hold it down carefully, and lots of times I will use a thread that's a different color, because this thread can come out. You're not going to actually see this thread because it's on the inside of your skirt. There we have the whole thing clipped. If you are having trouble visualizing what we're doing, think of that gather stitch as a drawstring. If you've ever done a drawstring, you'll know that pulling that drawstring makes the edge of that drawstring, get the part where the drawstring is, to get smaller. So what we did was we ran that gather stitch, then we pulled it up like a drawstring. Now, and as you can see, I have lots and lots of clips on here, and I'm going to take them off as I get to them. If I have one part that doesn't act like it's cooperating, I just pull on that gather stitch again. Now I am going to sew all the way around this, and I've switched my machine back to 3. And I'm just going to sew all the way around. And see, I don't like the way this is laying right here. I just am not in love with the way it's laying, so I'm just going to pull that drawstring. Pull that gather stitch so that I have gathered that just a teensy bit more, just so I like the way it's laying just a little bit better. Because I want that extra fabric to be in evenly around the edge, around the inside edge. And as I sew along here, you can see that I'm going pretty fast. This part actually was cut, which I don't love, but it is what it is. And I'm going to show you, see how tidy that goes on there? It just looks like I am sewing an easy straight edge. And I do keep checking the outside to make sure I'm getting it to lay down nice and evenly. But you can, as you can see, it lays down just nicely. It's so much easier than every other method I have seen. There we have it. And when I go give this a quick iron, you will see that it made that circle skirt knot. It's super, that circle super tidily trimmed. Now that I've ironed my hem, you can see that taking that gather and evenly distributing the larger circle into the smaller circle makes for a very tidy double rolled hem. Now, if I were using white and I wanted that to gather out, I would just pull it, and it's a loose stitch, so I can just pop that gather out relatively easily, and you won't even see the extra thread because I will just take it out. So I can use any color of thread in my gather. As you can see, that was very easy to pull out. There's the little rest of it. And there I have a neatly hemmed circle. Thank you for watching Share Our World.